Nachi free.
I've got an opinion too, you know, about this whole Donald Trump brouhaha and all the violence being instigated at his rallies. And I'll tell you why my opinion is worth listening to. Because I was a Donald Trump fan. I was one of those few people among family, friends, and co-workers trying to sing his praises as an accomplished businessman who was worth voting for, but not anymore. And here's why. It's funny how almost all my Republican family and friends warned me about Donald Trump. They would say, he's not really a Republican or a conservative. He's an who will say and do anything to get what he wants. And as a YouTuber of Cuban descent who wears a Mexican wrestling mask for cheap laughs, I was able to see past his comments on Mexicans being rapists and murderers, his other comment on Cubans not being real evangelicals, and a bunch of other ill-informed crap that he slings out of his mouth without a second thought that's really entertaining to listen to. But that's precisely what I loved about him. The fact that he admits that he's a power-hungry egomaniac who's always looking out for the bottom line. At least you knew where he stands and what to expect. Not like the rest of these slimy parasites and hypocrites, Republicans and Democrats alike, who have the nerve to say they're running for public service. Bull. It's all about self-service with you career politicians. Who do you think you're kidding? Oh, by the way, I've officially had it with Bernie Sanders. F*** him. I tried to give that misguided communist a chance, but I can't anymore, especially after they asked him about the difference between the socialism he professes and the actual socialism in countries like Nicaragua, Cuba, and Venezuela at the last Democratic debate, and in Miami, Florida, no less. And he answered, let's look at the facts here. Cuba is, of course, an authoritarian, undemocratic country. Yeah, to say the least, Bernie. But on the other hand, it would be wrong not to state that in Cuba they have made some good advances in healthcare. They're sending doctors all over the world. There isn't enough time in this video to dispel that despicable misconception and to get into the modern day indentured servitude that so many Cuban doctors have been forced to endure to provide free healthcare, you Why can't you liberals who think you're so goddamn intellectual finally see through this bullshit once and for all? That's the thing about Bernie Sanders and his diehard supporters. They're always the first to throw sanctimonious hissy fits about evil corporations and Wall Street and how it's unacceptable to make a profit in the healthcare industry. Yet they have a soft spot for a murderous, despotic dictator like Fidel Castro, who's directly responsible for oppressing millions of Cubans for over half a century, and to this day still arrests and beats down thousands of Cubans a year simply for political opposition. But whatever, this video is about Donald Trump. Like I was saying, I was always a fan of the Donald since I was a kid. Because that was one of my dreams, to have my own business and grow up to become a billionaire business tycoon like him and the little Monopoly guy. You see, unlike Bernie self-righteous Sanders, I still believe in the American dream. It is very possible, especially if you stop encouraging a victimhood, entitlement mindset that refuses to account for self-responsibility and accountability for one's own actions, let alone one's own children. But of course, that's not only politically incorrect to say, it's politically inconvenient considering the amount of votes these career politicians count on in exchange for welfare benefits. Because I'm sorry, it has to be said, it's not just racism that's keeping blacks and Hispanics down. Don't get me wrong, racism is definitely a problem, and the Donald is exploiting it for all it's worth at his rallies by giving the public all the circus and cake it can choke on. And that's why I like to think that my opinion is going to be a little different from all the other virtue signaling hot air balloons you're going to find on the internet this week about Donald Trump. You see, my last video was about what I find to be the divisiveness and destructiveness of the Black Lives Matter movement, which is pushing the buttons at Donald Trump's rallies by trying to shut him down. That's why I still stand by what I said in my last video. But now it's also very clear to me that Donald Trump is just as divisive and destructive, if not more so. Someone in his position should know better than to be fanning the flames of racism by inciting people to punch others in the face like in the good old days, which I agree with anyone in the Black Lives Matter movement on never wanting to return to. In my opinion, Donald Trump should not be president, even if he takes back everything he said at a lot of his rallies. Donald Trump is peddling poison, and I can't believe it took me this long to see that. So this is a simple message to any Donald Trump supporters or fans like myself who's been on the fence about him. He's not going to solve our problems. He's going to make them worse, as I'm seeing them play out every time he opens his mouth. Which makes me wonder, why isn't John Kasich at the top of the polls? Why isn't he the favored Republican nominee? This is amazing that it's not him. By the way, just because my family's Cuban doesn't mean I think Marco Rubio would be a better candidate either. He's too young and green. And the worst part about that fact is that he won't even legalize marijuana either. But whatever, it's such a shame that people respond to Donald Trump instead of a sensible choice like John Kasich, because Donald Trump seems to be the stronger leader. That's not the kind of strength and leadership our country needs. Please keep that in mind if you're going to be voting at any of the primary elections in this upcoming week. Thanks for watching.
Homegrown